What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another mock draft video. What I decided that I'm going to start doing is I'm going to go team by team for all 32 teams leading up to the draft, and I'm going to do a 3-round mock draft with all of them to see, what their projections are, what they could possibly get, and um, to help improve their team this upcoming season. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start with the AFC East teams, particularly the New England Patriots, who have the highest draft pick. So we're going to go ahead and get started. They do have 4 picks in these first 3 rounds. So let's see how everything falls. You guys see here Cam Ward going first, Abdul Carter going next, and Travis Hunter going third. So when we look at how everything's falling so far, I do think Tatora McMillan is a very viable option here. I do think that New England needs a little bit of help in the receiving core. They don't have great receivers. I wouldn't say they have a true alpha receiver, and McMillan could very well give that to you if you take him here. Another option is definitely Mason Graham. Mason Graham played very, very well for Michigan this year. Everybody's thinking that he is at least, top 3 in terms of talent in this draft. And for him to fall to New England right here, put him opposite of Keon White. I'm not sure if probably butchered that. But put him on the defensive interior line. He is going to, bring the pressure to the quarterback. That's something that New England wasn't successful at doing last year. And Mason Graham, I think, should be able to help that defensive interior. So, that being said, I know that there are some talks about Will Campbell. I see a lot of mock drafts showing that Will Campbell is going to get picked here by New England to protect Drake May. I disagree. I do think that Will Campbell is talented, but I don't think he is talented enough to skip over some perennial players here at the top, particularly McMillan and Mason Graham. That being said, I do think that there are some really good options in terms of receivers later on. I would think that New England in this position would want to improve their defense. Definitely would have drafted Travis Hunter if he was here, or Abdul Carter if he was here. But because they're not, I do think that Mason Graham is the best choice for the defensive interior, and I do think that New England will lean that way with a new head coach in Mike Vrabel, and find their offensive weapons and offensive linemen later on in the draft. So Mason Graham to New England. That's what I would expect him to do. So let's see how everything falls here at 38. Looking back, see Ashton Gianci falling to Cincinnati. Kind of interesting. Lot of crazy picks here. You would expect somebody like Las Vegas to go with Shadur, but oh well. Looking at 38. Now this is where I potentially want to look at receiver. You want to see which receivers are available. You have to remember that we do have the 69th pick as well, and some of these players could fall very well to that 69th pick. I've seen some drafts where Xavier Restrepo falls down to the 69th pick. So I'm definitely looking at receiver here. However, I do want to bring up the interior offensive lineman. Oh, excuse me. And you can see here we do have, I'm probably going to butcher this, Alec Ayumanor from Stanford, who had a decent season, a little bit down from his previous year. I do think that the top choices here are going to be Tyler Booker from Alabama. Not necessarily the greatest player for Alabama, but not too bad. I do think that he has the potential to be a perennial left guard, And you know what they say, you're never really going to find those heavy offensive linemen, those guys that are going to be your Pro Bowlers, your All Pros. A lot of these guys are sitting in these second and third rounds. I truly believe that. That being said, I do think that New England's going to improve their offensive line here. I think that they're going to lean toward going Tyler Booker, bring some help for Drake May. His offensive line toward the end of the year looked a little bit better, and I think that was because he has legs, so he's not afraid to scramble and make some plays that don't necessarily rely on his offensive line to protect him. But I do think that they try and train Tyler Booker to be that one of these guards that helps protect Drake May, and I do think that there's a good chance the Patriots pick up a couple of other offensive linemen in free agency to go along with this. So I think that this makes sense for them. So now going into pick 69 and then obviously 77, pretty close picks. And when I'm looking here, again, we want to look at the wide receiver position. I definitely know what I'm kind of leaning toward as far as, the next pick. I do think that there are a couple of receivers here that make sense. Trey Harris obviously is a great receiver. I watched a lot of his play at Ole Miss. Isaiah Bond definitely is an option, and I've seen some very underrated, comments about Jalen Royals. So that's definitely an option here. However, again, looking back at the options that we have here, I do think that this is going to be a position where the Patriots either double down and they go with another offensive line talent here in Cameron Williams. However, I do think that because their pressure rate was so low, I do think that the Patriots could get fancy here and choose something like a Josiah Stewart, who played very well last year for Michigan's defense. I would say it was very much a step up from his 2023 performance, played in 4 less games, but had more sacks, more hits, more hurries. I do think that this is going to be something where the Patriots, again, want to bring pressure to the quarterback, something that was non-existent to them last year. And we just, proved that if you want to, win the Super Bowl, got to bring some pressure to the quarterback. I think the Eagles showed that very well. And I think that this is a situation where the Patriots are going to, double down on the defensive line, and they're going to go Josiah Stewart. So that leaves us with the very last pick. And immediately when I'm looking at this very last pick, I'm looking toward the wide receiver core, particularly Isaiah Bond. I know he wasn't necessarily the greatest receiver last year for Texas. They had a lot of talent, but I do think that this is a guy that could potentially improve their receiving core. I think Tez Johnson is also a very interesting prospect. This is a guy who everybody thought opposite Stewart was going to be, a top draft pick for Oregon. He kind of fell off. Not really sure what that was about, but he still proved to be very good for Oregon last year. Again, Trey Harris obviously had a big year last year as well. I don't necessarily know if they want to reach here for somebody like Trey Harris, or if they feel like potentially they could get him later on. I think that this is a situation where if I was in this situation, I don't necessarily know off the top of my head where the fourth round pick of the Patriots lies. I'm going to go out, I'm going to grab my wide receiver, and truly I think that Trey Harris being in the 3rd round is an absolute travesty. I think that he has the makings and the talent of being a number 1 option in any offense. So I think that the Patriots go here. They take their risk on getting a receiver. I think that Trey Harris fits perfectly with Drake May, and that's where I would go. I know that it's not necessarily going to be a very highly ranked draft for them. However, B minus. When I look at these picks, obviously I'm looking at Tyler Booker being, going 38th, 49th overall on the big board. I do think this is a position where they have to go with an offensive lineman here. And I do like the other decisions going with a wide receiver in the third round and getting another Michigan guy to go right there on their defensive line. I think for the Patriots, these cover a lot of the holes that they currently have. Um, and I think that they could do pretty well with this draft. Um, you know, Granted, I've heard some talks about potentially the Patriots trading down, getting some extra picks in the second round or the third round. Never know what could happen, but as far as it lies right here, this is where I would go. So that's going to be the New England Patriots. If you guys like this video, or you guys have any comments, if you guys think I'm a complete idiot, leave that down in the comment section below. And that's all I got. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.